Hey, hey, Kate. Hey, Bethy Cakes. Good to see you both. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are at this time in the world. Good to have you guys here. So let's get into it. First of all, let me go over to Law and Crime because I want to finish up the last little bit of testimony from George yesterday. Let me see here. Here we go. Because we only had about like 30 minutes left. And hold on a sec. We only had like 30 minutes left, and he was talking about the day of the crime, and he was asleep at home. He didn't hear anybody leave, and they drive big old diesel trucks, so surely he would, blah 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 blah. Here's the deal, George. No, sorry, no, it's not enough. You didn't do enough, and Canepa is probably going to destroy you on cross. But good luck. Let's get right into it so that what happened here? Why is this not doing it? I can't make the closed captions on, and I got to make it so we don't miss any of the test right into it. While we're haven't already, give your girl a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it very much. And here,
I've heard it from multiple sources.
Growing up as a kid, did you hear that?
Yes.
Believe it as a kid?
Yes.
And when you lived out on Bethel Hill, was your dad like a doomsdayer or anything like that?
The end of the world.
Explain.
He kept constantly thought the world was going to end in his. Once he buried a bread truck, and then he buried a container.
He buried a bread truck.
Yeah.
Explain that.
He dug a hole with a backhoe and put a bread truck in it and covered it back up.
What was the purpose of that?
Storing food, water, whatever else he wanted to put down in it.
Okay, and did he do something else, did you just say?
He buried a container for similar thing.
Like a dry box?
Sea box container like you see on trains or on container ships.
Okay, and what did he do with that?
Buried it
Where?
on Bethel.
And what was the purpose of that?
To store food, water, and whatever else he wanted to store in it.
What was your thoughts about that?
I see it really as pointless.
Did your dad ever appear to be paranoid?
nobody did, Kate. Nobody
He
did.
was always paranoid.
Like what?
Always thought people were listening to him, watching him through the TV, through the phone. He kept tape over his phone's camera and everything.
What about your mother?
My mother was more paranoid in other ways.
Explain.
Growing up, my mother thought that everybody out there was trying to, in other words, she just thought everybody was going to try and kidnap me or my brother.
How do you know that?
She used to say it all the time when we were young kids.
So these murders happened. You were not involved, is that what
No.
you're saying? You didn't know beforehand?
No.
Didn't know that?
No.
At some point, your family decides to sell the farm on Peters.
Yes.
How did that decision come about?
Mainly to pay us out of debt. And my brother was saying that he didn't want Sophie to grow up around here with everything that was being said on topics on Facebook
Was your brother, if you know, following Facebook or topics?
daily, him and my mother.
Of course they were. He had a
They lived on
GoFundMe.
Facebook
Stop
topics,
it.
monitoring everything that everybody was saying.
I'm sorry?
They were looking at everything everybody was saying on Facebook and topics daily.
Would they tell you?
Some of it.
What was your reaction to all that?
I tried to ignore it.
Why is that?
I just don't see the point in getting into all the drama.
At that point in time, did you know your family had been involved?
No.
What did you think was going
As far as the
on? The
investigation,
investigation.
I just thought that they were wasting time because they started out trying to accuse Bobby Joe and James, and I seen that they were looking in the wrong directions and it couldn't be a family member that would do it.
You didn't think it was any of the Roden family?
No.
Or the man?
No.
Did you think it was any of your family?
No.
So why did you think your family was being looked at?
I assumed it was because my brother had pissed everybody in the Manley family off.
What do you mean by that?
He insulted them an awful lot.
In what way?
He thought he was better than them, and thought that the way they lived was horrible, that they had too much junk around, their houses were too dirty, and he kind of rubbed it in that Leonard Manley, I guess from what I've told, is had Frankie put the wrong transmission fluid in transmission and blew it up, and my brother rubbed it in.
Okay. So why did you think BCI was looking at your family?
Because my brother was saying that Leonard had pointed the finger at him, and that's why BCI was looking at us.
Hmm.
What was your understanding of the reason for going up to Alaska after the marriage?
The original was to get Sophie away from everything that was being said on topics.
Okay. And you knew the Cinereskis.
Yes.
They lived up in
Your Honor,
Alaska.
kindly project to Mr. Parker continuing to testify. Please ask the question.
All right, well, objection sustained.
Did you know anybody in Alaska?
Yes, multiple people.
Who did you know?
Caleb Cinereski, Jake Cinereski, Kelly Cinereski, Russell Lombacher.
And why did you want to move to Alaska?
My family's talked about it since before I was 10. We talked about it for years.
And so you sold the farm on Peterson.
Yes.
What did you do next?
Paid ourselves out of debt and then went on a 2-week vacation to Alaska to see if it was really where we still wanted to go.
And how did you get there?
We drove.
In one car, two cars?
One.
Which car did you take?
The Suburban.
So it was you,
Me, my mom, my dad, my brother, my son, and my niece.
must have been pretty crowded.
It was.
How
And
long
tell
did it
us
take you to
again
get
how
there?
you were trying to distance yourself and escape your family.
Would you stop and stay overnight or drive straight through?
I think we stayed at 3 different hotels. The rest of it we drove on the way up.
So you got up to Alaska.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Drove around, went fishing a couple times, talked to a couple people about jobs, looked at a couple places that we might buy or rent. I went and seen Caleb, and then drove around the state of Alaska on kind of like a vacationing thing, just to see the sights in Alaska.
And did you make any decision about, while you were in Alaska, did you make any decisions about where you were going to live?
On permanently staying there?
Yeah.
Not at that point.
All right. You ended your vacation.
Yes.
What did you do?
Drove back.
All right. And describe that.
We came back through Canada, came back into Montana, and then from Montana we came back to the Flying W.
All right. Now something happened in Montana, right?
Yes, we were interrogated there.
Pretty much,
what
Bethy. Pretty much.
When we got to the border crossing, the border patrol took us into separate different rooms and started talking to us.
All right. And when was this approximately?
May of 17, I believe.
Were you surprised or at what happened at the border?
Yes,
Why were you surprised?
because BCI had done been notified that we would talk to them at their office when we came back.
I'm sorry.
We had done notified BCI that we would talk to them at their office when we came back.
How did that happen?
My mom and brother had called them after they had searched everything on 41 in Peterson.
So while you were on this trip to Alaska, did you find out what happened on Route 41?
Yes,
What was your understanding?
that they were searching everything on all of our belongings in the farm and our trailers in the old farm.
And how did that make you feel?
I wasn't very happy about it
Why is that?
because they were destroying everything on my kids.
And did you, at this point in time, know if your family had any involvement in these murders?
No.
Were you upset that BCI was still looking at your family after all
Yes.
this time?
Yes, I was very upset
And why is that?
because I was under the assumption that they were just trying to point the finger at anybody they could so they wouldn't continue to be like Facebook topics was saying that they didn't know what they were doing for their job. I thought they were just trying to frame my mom and brother.
You
Was
did.
your demeanor affected by that belief?
Yes.
In what way?
Because I was severely upset with them.
So you were interrogated at the Montana border.
Yes.
And how long were you interrogated, if you remember?
Hours. I don't know the exact amount, just hours.
Did BCI accuse you of anything?
Starting out, not starting off, no.
Okay, how did the
If I remember correctly, they started off talking about hunting and fishing.
Okay, and then what?
Then they started asking questions about receipts and shell casings and shoes. And
Did they show you any photographs or any documents? Did they show you?
yes, they showed me pictures of shell casing, a picture, I believe a picture of a Walmart receipt and a pair of shoes.
And what kind of questions were they asking?
They were saying that my mom bought the pair of shoes and the receipt showed she bought them and that those were the shoes that was used. And then they said that they found a shell casing at the crime scene that matched my father's gun.
And what was your reaction to that?
I didn't believe what they were saying.
Were you told that your family was involved?
They accused my brother and my mother of it. Yes.
What was your reaction?
was just upset about it. I was emotionally distraught that they would accuse my family.
And who had been driving from Alaska to Montana?
Me,
How long had you been driving?
counting the whole trip around Alaska,
Well, just on the way back to the United States. You stopped
Yeah,
in Montana.
they don't want to know your total drive
2 or
time,
3
George.
days.
You weren't.
I'm sorry?
2 or 3 days maybe,
You'd been driving for 2 or 3 days?
Yes.
With sleep, without sleep?
hardly any.
Oh my God, poor
When you were driving
George.
either on this trip or with your truck jobs, cross country, did you have any habits as far as caffeine goes?
Oh,
Massive
here
amounts
we
of it.
go.
Explain.
On an average day, 4 packs of Stacker 2s, 8 to 10 Monsters and Red Bulls a day, 6 to 8 coffees,
What are stackers?
a caffeine tablet you buy at Pilot
Why would you take so many?
to
So
stay
much.
to stay awake.
Did that affect your personality or how your demeanor in any way?
It makes me very irritable when I go days without sleep.
So you've been driving for how long when you got stopped in Montana?
2, 3 days.
Were you taking this caffeine that you normally take?
Yes.
Did anybody else in your family share in the drive?
Is that from Alaska to Montana?
Yes.
No.
So you're in this interview or interrogation in Montana. What was your understanding at the end of the interview?
At the end of it,
Yes.
my understanding of it was that they were either going to call me a suspect or a witness, whichever they decided, and that they wanted me to basically spy on my brother.
Did you agree to do that?
Yes.
Did you ever have a conversation with your brother after this Montana interrogation?
Yes.
Explain that.
I asked my brother if he had had anything to do with it, or if he knew who did.
When did you have that conversation?
When we got back from Montana and was on the farm reloading everything.
Was anybody else around?
No, it was just me and him.
Oh, isn't that a
What was his
bummer?
response?
He swore up and down that he didn't know who did it and they didn't have nothing to do with it.
Did you accept that?
I had no reason not to believe him.
Did you ever ask your mother if she was involved?
No.
Did you ever ask your dad?
No, because I knew the answer that would come from him.
What answer was that?
He would say he had nothing to do with it and his kid did it.
So you're back in Ohio after this trip, this little vacation, right?
Yes,
Montana.
Kate. Yes, that's exactly what he's claiming. Didn't
Now,
know, didn't
when you
show,
get out
didn't
of the
go.
Interrogation. Did they release all of your family members?
Yes.
All right. Explain what happened immediately after they released you.
After they were done talking to me,
Yes.
they let me out and then they brought my kid to me and I went to the car.
All right. Was there anybody at the car before you?
My mom and father.
Where was Jake?
He was still talking to them, I guess. I know he was still in the building.
Did you have any conversation with your mom and dad?
Not really.
Well, everybody had just been interrogated, right?
Yes. I was more concentrated on trying to figure out what was up with my kid.
Explain that.
He was like disoriented and acted massively tired, which is unusual for him.
And so, what did you do with your kid? Your concerns, what did you do?
After Jake was released,
Yes.
we
Hey,
went and
Super
took him to the
Mama.
emergency room to see if he had anything wrong with him.
Was there an emergency room nearby?
I think it took us a little bit to get there, maybe 30 minutes.
So why did you take him to the emergency?
It started off that Sophie had said that BCI gave him some kind of medicine, and because Sophie had said that, and I just wanted to make sure he had nothing wrong with him.
So you
Yeah.
had him checked out.
Yes, because he has bad anxiety attacks, and I just wanted to make sure they didn't give him something, maybe too much of it, to calm him down.
And what was the result of the medical exam?
They said he had nothing in his system.
And so what did you do after you did this emergency room?
After that, we went to a hotel.
Who was doing the driving?
Me.
Why were you doing all the driving?
My dad said he was too stressed to drive. My mom and brother said they were too stressed to drive.
So you got a hotel?
Yes.
Spent the night?
Yes.
And then you came back to Ohio?
Yes.
All right. What were the plans after you got back to Ohio?
To clean up everything that was left out in the rain.
Over on Route 41?
Yes.
Where did you stay when you got back to Ohio?
I dropped my dad off at the Flying W, and we went to Jackson and stayed in the hotel
Why did you stay in a hotel in Jackson?
because my uncle was going to help me clean everything and put it all back on the trailers. And it's easier for me to pick him up on the way from Jackson through South Webster than to stay where it'd be closer to Piketon. I'd had to went to South Webster and get him and come back here and go take him home to South Webster. It was quicker just to go one straight trip back and forth.
Mm.
What were your
Gotcha.
plans at this point as far as staying in Ohio or going to Alaska?
After the trailers were reloaded,
After the trip?
it was kind of up in the air whether I stayed close to the Flying W or if we went up. But it ended up going to Alaska.
And what were the travel arrangements or circumstances of that?
After everything was loaded, one trailer was on my truck, one was on my brother's, and my mom and dad had the Suburban, and we drove to Seattle.
So there were 3 vehicles.
Yes, at least to Seattle, there was 3.
And what happened in Seattle?
We shipped a Suburban from Seattle to Alaska.
And how did you get to Alaska?
My brother and I took the Alcan.
So what's the out?
It's a highway.
So you and your brother drove from Seattle up to Alaska?
Yes,
What about your mom and your dad and the children?
they flew. They flew from Seattle to Anchorage.
So how long did it take you to roughly to get from Seattle up to Alaska?
3.5 days, 3.5 days.
When you got there, your mom and dad and the kids were already there.
Yes.
So what were the living arrangements?
The first couple of days,
Sure.
the first couple of days, my mom and dad had a hotel
And where did you sleep?
in my truck.
What do you mean you stayed in your
I
truck?
sleep in my truck
Why do you sleep in your truck?
because it's the only thing that's ever actually been 100% mine. It's like my castle. I keep everything in my truck.
Did there come a time when you got a place to live?
Yes.
How did that come about?
My mom had found a place to rent and we rented it.
And what was it like?
Kind of just like a house trailer with an add-on on it.
All right.
It ended up not being what my mother had said it was, but it was the only place that we found that was rentable. So
So what did you do once you found this place?
after we rented that, my brother and I went and found a place to go to work.
How did you find the place to go to work?
Just started going from garage to garage, seeing who was hiring.
And you found a job?
Yes.
Where did you find a job?
Buddy's garage.
And Mike
Who?
came in to testify from Alaska.
Yes.
You know him?
Yes.
How did you know him?
He was my foreman.
At Buddy's garage?
Yes.
How did describe briefly Buddy's garage?
Oh,
It's
buddies.
got 3 bays on it, 2 on the big side of the shop, 1 on the small side of the shop.
How many people worked there?
6, not counting Buddy.
And what would the typical workday be?
Usually 6 to 4 or 5 in the afternoon, depending on something needed done.
All right. And was it 5 days a week?
Yes, unless something needed done on the weekend or unless I was out on a record call.
How much were you making?
$17.50 starting out.
And did you get a raise at some point?
I was offered a raise at some point,
How long did you work?
3 or 4 months.
And what was your daily duty?
Whatever truck came into the shop, I would fix it, or if somebody called for a tow, I would take the wrecker out and tow somebody.
So you
So you worked.
Buddy
Okay.
had you driving the wrecker.
Yes.
Explain what those were.
I drove the
What?
semi-wrecker.
And what was that? What was your job?
How is
If
this?
an RV needed towed
helpful?
or another semi or anything that was big, I would go and tow it.
Y'all,
Did you
is
like it?
testifies that, is that how you
You like
spell
people who work?
testifies? That doesn't look right. Hold on a
You worked
minute.
there as well.
Yes.
Did you
I'm
have
about
the
to
same
Google this.
responsibilities or
This
different?
does not look
Entirely
correct.
Explain.
My brother was basically just being taught how to clean tanks,
You mean clean tank?
clean tankers out.
And were you working in the same part of the garage?
He worked in the far left bay and out the back of the garage, and I worked in the far right bay, kind of a separate part of the garage, but still the same building.
Oh yeah,
Right,
that's
no
right.
bother devices.
It just looks
And did there come
weird.
a time when you left that job?
Yes.
Why did you leave that job?
I was getting $17.50 an hour, and Kenai Marine and Diesel offered me 30.
Big pay.
Yes.
I
You decided to take that.
I have to say, hang on
How
a
did that
second. Let me just
I went
pause
over
this really
there,
quick.
even
I have to say, I don't know, Kate, and the only reason I don't know is because of the wiretaps they played where he and Jake are hollering at each other, and I'm not actually okay, so I'm not surprised by his voice on the stand only because I heard the wiretaps. And there are some, not all of the wiretaps are him screaming his head off, right? A lot of them are really just him and Angela having conversations. And so he's using his inside voice for that. But I do think that I think the defense had no choice but to put him on the stand. First of all, he's got to explain and distance himself, and he's got to explain some of the stuff that was on those wiretaps, because it's pretty damning. When you really break it down. I mean, he was inquiring about more, and he had follow-up questions about this house in Alaska. Then there was the the business plan that he was looking into, the deer jerky. And on top of that, he left with his family. He was employed in Alaska. there wasn't, it's not like he had no choice, like, because financially, that he was tied to his family financially. They were supporting him. And so he had to go where they went. He was independently employed. He had his own job. He had his own money. And it's going to be very difficult for this jury and hello, us to I don't think this testimony, him being on the stand and showing a calm demeanor or anything, I think it may help him like 1%, and that's about it. That's just me, though. If I were, because I'm listening just like the jury is, and it would help him, in my opinion, if I were actually being, deciding his fate, it would help me about 1%.
Nobody and Mike informed me that I wouldn't be over there long before they laid me off, but I wanted the extra money and I went over there.
Just,
How far
and
away is
that's
that
just
from-
now.
Quarter mile maybe.
All right. And
I
how long
haven't-
did you work
that's
at
without
Kenai Marine?
cross
3.5
exam.
months roughly before I got laid off.
What time of year did you get laid off?
October, right at the beginning of winter.
And what did you learn about being laid off in Alaska that time?
You can't hardly find another job because everybody's laying everybody off.
So what'd you do after you got laid off?
I pretty much spent my time with my kid after that.
Was your dad working?
Yes, he worked for a tow truck company.
Was Jake working?
Yes, until he got laid off.
Okay, he was at Buddy's, right?
Yes.
Did he leave Buddy's?
Eventually, yes. He, when I found out Kenai was hiring, I went there to see if they would give me a raise because Mike recommended me to him. And then when I got the job from them, they asked me if I could convince my brother to come over there because he wanted more mechanics and was basically Buddy's rival.
Okay. And so your brother came over.
Yes, he offered my brother 25 from 17.50 an hour.
And you worked there a few months, you said?
3.5
Yes,
before I got
Kate,
laid off.
absolutely.
Your brother came over.
3 weeks, I think, after me, 3 or 4 weeks after me.
So you're in Alaska. What time of year is it now that you're laid off?
October.
All right. And was your mom working?
No, she just stayed home and watched the kids while we went to work.
That's a job.
But your dad had this tow truck job?
Yes.
Did there come a point in time when you made a decision to leave Alaska?
Yes.
Explain that.
I couldn't find another job, and I got homesick and wanted to get closer back to my uncle and my Aunt Randa, and I started looking at jobs out of the state.
All right. And what you did to find it?
I was looking up job advertisements until I found ones that were hiring.
And did you find it?
Yes, eventually.
Which one was that?
R&L Carriers.
And what is that?
It's a trucking company.
What was your understanding of where the job was?
My understanding, it was Kansas City.
Kansas City, Missouri?
Yes.
So you found this job online?
Yes.
Did you call anybody and have an interview? How did that work?
The first person I talked to said that the job was available and that they were always hiring team drivers and that they would have plenty of them until I was able to get from Alaska to Kansas City.
What's a team driver?
You put 2 drivers in a truck and it never stops. One's supposed to sleep while one drives.
Did that job appeal to you?
Yes.
Why did that job appeal
I
to
was
you?
already used to it from hauling cattle.
Did you consider that to be a good company?
Yes.
Why is that?
R&L is a really good company. They have good benefits, good retirement.
Is that something you were looking for?
Yes, and they take care of their drivers.
How old were you at this point?
27, I believe.
And so, did you discuss this with your family?
Starting out, I went to my father first
All right,
because I knew it'd be easy to win him over. When I mentioned it to him, he just asked when to pack his bag.
about coming back to Ohio or leaving Alaska?
Leaving Alaska.
So you were going to go to Missouri.
Yes.
So why don't
Okay
you
with
stay?
that?
He was going back to Flying W.
He was going back to Florida.
Yes.
But he had no problems leaving Alaska.
No.
What about Jake and your mom?
They are stubborn and don't like to admit when they were wrong. And I started out basically turning my mother's trick against her. And I convinced the kids that they missed their farmland.
Bet they sure do.
Was it difficult to convince your mom or Jake?
It took me about a month and a half to convince my mother. I started on her second.
All right. And what about Jake?
Jake was the hardest one to convince. He said he didn't care if he stayed laid off and had to live in a cardboard box. He wasn't leaving.
While living in Alaska, did you have a girlfriend?
I wouldn't call her a full-time girlfriend, but a girl that I hung out with.
And who was that?
Her name is Josanna Smith.
What did you call her?
Josie.
How did you know Josie?
I've known her my whole life.
She was in Alaska. How did you know her?
She's originally from Medford.
She's originally from there.
Yes.
But she was living in Alaska when you were there.
Yes.
And how did you connect with her?
In Alaska? Or,
Yes, in Alaska.
She started commenting on a photo I put on Facebook.
What kind of photo?
Just a picture of me on a four-wheeler.
Did you know she was in Alaska?
Yes.
So what happened after the communication started?
She just said eventually that we hadn't talked in ages and she wanted to catch up on old times. And she usually comes to Kenai around once a month. And when she was in town, she let me know we can hang out. And I told her when her and her husband got to town just to stop in, she can introduce me to her husband.
Did that happen?
No, the next day, she texted me and said she was in town.
So what happened?
We went out to a Spanish restaurant without her husband, I might add.
Oh
And
my
what happened
God.
after the restaurant?
After the
George.
restaurant, we went back to her hotel room.
Anything happened between the two of you?
Not really. I won't do anything in a hotel room with a child.
She had a child with her?
She had Tyler with her,
And how old was Tyler?
maybe 6 months.
What happened the next day?
After that, she just continued talking with me and we just messed around with each other.
Did you ever see her a second time?
Once in Seward and once in Anchorage before I moved.
I don't know. I
Never
missed
had
that
any
part,
physical
babe.
involvement?
Kate.
Not really.
Was there any
Every
time?
time she had Tyler with her.
Every time she had time. Was there a time when you told her you were leaving Alaska?
Yes.
And what did you tell her?
That I was moving to Missouri for a job. I'd been laid off for too long and I needed a job.
What was her reaction?
Nothing really.
Did you have any other girlfriends when you were in Alaska?
I wouldn't call them girlfriends, just girls that I talked to and stuff and hung out with occasionally.
Mm.
What about Jake?
Only one I know of is Beth.
Judge, I don't know if this is a good time for a break.
It's fine. That's a good time for you. I assume that's acceptable statement. Right? All right. We'll take a 15-minute break, about 5 after 3. The jury will assemble the jury room and be brought up from there by court personnel. While you're on break, do not.
I think we left off where talking about Alaska and your brother meeting that.
I think he said it. I had to,
Explain what you know
it took
about
me
your
time
brother
to
meeting
turn my
that.
mom, like convince her. I think that's what he
I
said.
think he knew it was Caleb. That's the first time he talked to her.
Did you go to church in Alaska?
A few times.
Which church did you go to?
Caleb Zareski's church.
And explain the circumstances or how you went there, etc.
We went to his father's church in Memphis, and when I got to Alaska, I went there a few times.
Was that near where you were living?
His church is in Soldotna. I lived in Keno.
How far away is it?
10 miles maybe.
Okay, so not too far.
Not too far, no.
Do you know if Beth and Jake, well, do you know if Beth attended the same church?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because I'd seen her there the first time that I was there.
And in your family, who all would go to that church?
On a regular basis, or,
Sure.
the one that went like every time the doors was open was Jake.
And did your mother?
She went almost every time the doors were open.
What about your father?
I think he went once or twice.
All right. I got to write this
He
timestamp
may have
down
gone 5 times the whole time I was there.
because they're about to start court and
did
I
you
don't want to
learn
miss
that-
this. So,
Jake was.
hi,
Maybe
Amelia.
serious
Good
about-
morning.
He brought her to dinner one day.
And we'll finish this up, but I got to hear this cross examination. Give me a
Yes, and
sec.
He called ahead of time, but we didn't know she was coming until he called.
So how much notice did you have? Would you say?
Maybe an hour.
And describe what happened then.
All right.
She came to dinner and my brother threw a fit.
Oh, brother. Oh, wow. They're still not live. But I don't want to miss it. And I know if I'm not paying attention, we will miss it. Hold on. Let me see what's going on in the chat. See. Hold on. All right. I suppose I can. I'm nervous to not. I'm okay. So I know that if I know the minute I'm like frustrated and throw my hands in the air and I'm like, okay, we'll just go back to watching yesterday is the minute that they're going to go live. You know, the broadcast is going to start and then we're going to miss cross and then I'm going to be upset. I also know that if I sit here and wait for them, it's going to be 5 ever. So I don't even know what to do. because they were supposed to start. Huh. Let me read this. Hold on a second. It's all right. So this is how do Shmita split screen? StreamYard doesn't allow that. What are you talking about, crazy girl? I will just add another tab and have them both ready to present. That's what I'll do. We can't split screen. Sorry. I think you can on OBS, but I do not think you can do it on the YouTubes. All right, hold on. Let me click on this. Stop, George. Stop talking. Oh, they're on. Oh, Shmita. They're arguing evidence at this time.
But I didn't see the relevance of it.
Yeah, Your Honor, Mr. Newcomb is the one who first brought up. I was asking him basically if in hindsight, anything had happened that made him,
How about
look back now and
this?
think that they were guilty. And he indicated that George had posted this on his Facebook. this
I
Brian
don't
Wolf,
I don't know how to
he
do it,
thought of that.
but
And I asked him why, and he said,
after
because I
I'm not streaming today,
through the eye.
you know, when I'm done, I will figure it out. I
They brought up
promise.
the picture to show Mr. Newcomb and have him identify.
My tablet's
this
doing
is the
something
picture he
weird.
saw, yes.
Please hold.
And then again, we brought it in through Ms. Ebeslage, and the only objection was to the responses. Well, that was what the court.
Yes,
That was not the only Judge, this
we need the
photograph
subtitles.
is not a one-eyed wolf.
Well,
It's a wolf with two different colored eyes, all right, which that's very clear. So it's been mischaracterized here. And, you know.
That's your argument.
No, that's what is obvious by looking at the picture. One eye is, if I could look,
is it a wolf or a Malamute?
and I'm not sure if it's a canine of some sort, appears one eye is blue and one eye is gold or yellow. It's not one eye.
Yeah, what's interesting though is Chris Newcomb's testimony was that as the investigation was going on, after the defendant had come back from Alaska, at some point he saw something that was like, ooh, you know, it triggered this, maybe these guys are involved in this. Ms. Caneva asked, what was that? It was a Facebook profile picture of what he thought was a one-eyed wolf. The defendant at that point brought that picture in and said, is this what you're talking about?
Because it's not clear, it's clearly not a one-eyed wolf. It's a canine of some sort.
Oh, it's
I
clearly
did
not
see
a
date
one-eyed
on this,
wolf then.
October
All
4th,
right.
2018, I think is the date which we put it, approximately 2.5 years after the homicides. It doesn't appear to me to be an animal with one eye. And I had forgotten, you said this was just after they came back from Alaska.
This is really a sad
I-
commentary on the
And even
tattoo
though
artist.
The witness, Mr. Newcomb, may have interpreted
No, Alice,
this
get
as
back,
being
Loretta.
something,
Hold on, I'll be right back, you guys.
that's one person's interpretation, and I'm going to order that it be excluded.
Thank you, Judge. We're ready for this.
All right, so is the state ready to have the jury brought up?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
I probably should, let me think, if he's on direct and there's opportunity to cross here. So again, I think the state should have an opportunity to cross. I'm not going to limit their cross-examination of that, but to the extent that that's being offered in their case in chief, I'm finding it at this point that I see no relevance in it.
Yeah,
But if you're asking that they now be allowed to use it in cross, I'm not going to limit their cross. It is a communication.
I'm sorry,
It is a communication.
I don't know what you mean by communication.
Well, isn't it between Angela and the defendant?
Angela does respond to it. When he posted it, there's a response from Angela and he responds back.
Well, it's a photograph, a clip art, I would say, is page 1.
I'm not going to deny their opportunity to cross him on it. His responses are his responses, and there'll be a request to admit it at that point, but I haven't admitted it now because I don't see the relevance of it.
See, we're in an awkward position because normally my clients would only, okay, we'll do it. Oh, no.
Sorry, you guys. My tablet's doing weird things. Alice is trying to jump on the desk to sit on the laptop.
The jury's
It's
would see right
chaos.
here. You'll recall that the defendant had been called as a witness by the defense, or we say out of order in the sense that the state has not rested its case at this point. The defense was continuing to examine the defendant on direct examination. That's the point at which
There it
we left
goes.
off.
Now it's not being
Yes,
weird.
So let me ask the state, is the state ready to proceed today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes.
All right, you may resume your direct examination.
Oh, he's not done direct examining. Holy guacamole, you guys. This is going to go on
Morning, George.
forever.
How are you?
Good.
All right. Remember to keep your voice loud enough so the jury can hear you. There's a microphone there. If you don't understand a question, just say so.
Let me just interject here too. This is continuous testimony, Mr. Wagner. So the oath that was administered yesterday is still applicable today. You're still under oath to tell the truth. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now, yesterday, George, I had you identify a few photographs. I need to go back over those because I realized I have 2 exhibits with the same number. So I need to clean that up. You remember I showed you this photograph. I believe that's your brother, and I called it Wagner Exhibit 53. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I also showed you a picture from your wedding, and I also called that Wagner Exhibit 53. Do you understand?
Yes.
I'm going to remark your wedding photo to make it 53-1. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
That's your wedding photo?
Yes.
All right, a couple more things here. Showing you what was previously marked as Wagner Exhibit 37. I think this is the only 37 you have. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Who is that?
My father.
Do you know where that picture was taken?
At the house on Peterson in the kitchen.
Now, George, did you use Facebook?
On and off.
Tell us about how often you used it. What were the circumstances you used Facebook?
Mainly just to get on Marketplace or diesel groups, or
What's Marketplace?
it's like a advertising thing. You buy and sell parts and stuff on it.
What would you use it for?
Buy and sell parts.
Parts.
Yes.
What kind of parts?
Diesel truck parts.
All right. Would you use it for anything else?
Marketplace, not generally.
Okay. Did you use the messenger service that's available through Facebook?
Yes, to talk to my friends with.
Was one of your friends Frankie Road?
Yes,
Did you ever block Frankie from being a friend?
not to my knowledge.
Now, did you have any experience with your mother?
Objection, Your Honor, to leave. Needs to let this witness testify.
I'm sorry, what was the objection?
He's leading, Your Honor.
Oh, leading question.
I don't think I finished the question, Judge.
Well,
I can finish your question.
give him the answer to the question.
With respect to Facebook, did you ever know of your mother to use your
Objection, Your
account
Honor.
or not?
Again, let me know the answer.
Well, I'll overrule the objection. Let him answer.
Not to my knowledge.
Did you ever know whether your mother obtained a password?
Not to my knowledge.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as Wagner Exhibit 55. Have you ever, take a look at that, look through that. Have you ever seen that?
I have to confess that there are times when Ms.
Not the
Canepa
contents of it, no,
objects. It
but I've
almost
seen the
sounds a
front of it
little
before.
whiny to me. I
You've
wish
seen
she'd
the
use a
cover?
more
Yes.
firm voice,
You've never
but
seen the content.
that's
No.
it.
Do you remember where you saw it?
That's all I
It
had to
used
say
be
about
in
that.
the kitchen of my mother's house.
Now, do you know whether your mother used Facebook?
Yes,
Did she talk to you about that?
on and off.
Do you know whether Jake used Facebook?
Yes,
Do you know if he used it often or not?
I don't know how often he used it, no.
What about your father?
Oh,
To my
this
knowledge, I
audio
don't
is
even think he has an
terrible.
account.
I mean, Billy doesn't like social media, but
Are
so
you-
I kind of don't think he has a Facebook account. But I don't know.
Showing you Wagner Exhibit 33 and 34. Do you know what these are? Have you ever seen?
Yes, I know what they are.
What is that?
It's a GoFundMe account my brother made
When did you first become aware of that?
years ago,
What do you mean by that?
like right after he made it.
And what's your understanding? What do you know about it?
All I know is he made one.
Had you actually seen the contents of it?
Before it showed up in Discovery, no.
So you had your own Facebook account, right?
Yes,
Showing you it's previously been marked as States Exhibit Quadruple G. Do you recognize that?
yes.
What is that?
It is a picture from my Facebook.
All right, describe that picture for the jury.
It's just a picture of a wolf with a tattoo over its eye and a miscolored eye.
And what?
A miscolored eye.
Okay, take a look at that. Tell the jury what color each eye is.
One's more like an ice blue and the other one's more like an amber.
Okay. And look at the second page of that document. Do you recognize that?
Yes,
What is that?
it's a text between me and my mother.
All right, and what did you text?
I sent her what, don't like it.
I'm sorry?
It says what, don't like it.
And what's her response?
My mother says really.
What's that picture about?
She only says really because when I was a child, I was terrified of them,
Terrified of?
of wolves.
All right. When did you place that when did you place that photograph in connection with your Facebook account? Do you remember?
I don't know the date. Can I look at it?
Please.
October 4th of 2018.
Does that photograph have anything to do at all with the murders in this case?
No,
Were you ever over at Left Fork Road when Ken got killed?
No,
Were you even in the area?
no.
Let's talk about Beth again for a moment. Did you trust Beth?
No.
Why not?
Multiple different reasons.
Okay,
He's
take your
I
time.
mean, I that I believe he absolutely
Reason
didn't
one,
trust Beth at all.
When she first broke up with my brother and then got back with him, I just thought it was weird that somebody who met a complete stranger would want to be with somebody who was accused of what we were being accused of.
All right, were there other reasons?
Yes.
Explain.
The second reason was she had come up with a story about her childhood that she and her brothers and her mother was part of some cult for some church in Texas, and I had guessed the church ended up selling kids to sex slavery or something like that.
All right, was there any other reason?
The other one, my kid had told me that she was telling him that you shoot people with ARs.
It's not for the truth of the matter, Judge. It's just,
Say it again.
it's not for the truth of the matter. It's just to explain his lack of trust.
Well, I'm gonna allow it.
The other one was I came home from work one week and my son said that Beth had told him that you shoot bad people with AR-15s.
Did you have an AR-15?
Yes,
Did your son know you had an AR-15?
yes,
You showed your son your guns, right?
yes,
You didn't hide them or anything.
no.
And so we heard some recordings, secret recordings that were made in the R&L truck. We heard those last week, right?
Yes,
Do you remember the discussions between you and your brother, you and your mother about Beth?
I remember multiple of them.
Right, there was more than one.
Yes.
And why did you want Beth out of the house on Southwest?
I just didn't feel my son was safe around her.
Did you want to kill her?
No,
What did you want?
I just wanted her to move out of the house.
Hi, Alice. Hello.
Let's talk about Sophie for a moment. That's Jake and Hannah's daughter, right?
Yes,
Did she have a nickname?
Suds.
How did she get that nickname?
I gave it to her when she was a baby.
Suds is
Explain.
kind of a cute nickname. I'm
She,
not gonna lie.
Was playing one day in a bucket full of water that she was sitting in that was filled full of soap.
So you gave her the nickname?
You're very clever, George.
Yes. It started out as Soapy Suds, but it ended up just going to Suds.
Did you ever
Hey.
discuss Sophie with Jake while you were driving around in the R&L truck or anywhere else after he had killed Hannah?
Hundreds of times.
During those conversations, did you know that he had killed Hannah?
No.
What was his demeanor when you brought up Sons?
Depends on what I was going on, but usually it turned into a fight and an argument.
About what?
Anytime I would say that Sophie made a face like Hannah or looked like Hannah or was acting like Hannah, he would throw a fit.
Like literally, like have
You
a
love
whole
your son
temper
quite obviously,
tantrum,
Yes.
throw himself on the floor.
Did
Be
you love
more,
Suds?
be more
Yes.
specific.
Did you kill these people for her?
No.
Would you ever do that?
No.
Would you kill anybody for your son?
No.
Let's talk about Tabby, your ex-wife, for a moment.
Oh, let's drag her through the mud a little bit more because we haven't done that enough this
How do
trial.
you feel now about Tabby raising money?
As long as she straightened her life up, I have no problem with it.
Oh wow, look at you, George.
When you guys were young and dating, living over on the Flying W or Copper Hill, what type of things would you like to do together?
Me and Tabby,
Yes.
we go fishing, hunting, four-wheeling.
Was there a particular spot or tree that you guys like to hang out at
When we were younger or back
Yeah.
together as
when you were
adult?
young?
Not really. After we were adults and back together, yes.
What was that?
I had a big hollowed out beech nut that we used to go sit in and deer hunt at
Where was that?
on my grandmother's farm.
Once you got your
Good
driver's
morning in
license,
5678.
turned
Thanks for
16,
coming. Good
what
to
type
see
of
you.
activities did you like to do?
I go hang out with my friends, drink, party, chase girls around, hunt and fish.
Did you ever go to any events or particular places?
Almost all the county fairs in southern Ohio and all the fall festivals,
Would you go by yourself or would you go with somebody?
depending on who was available to go with me at the time.
Would you go by yourself?
Yes, if nobody else was available, I went by myself a couple of times.
And why was that?
If nobody else was available,
You know, but why would you go to these?
I just enjoyed them.
Do
What's
you
the...
remember the type of truck you had?
Ow, Alice, please stop.
When I
That
was
hurts.
16,
Yeah,
it was a 95 Dodge Diesel,
all right. And did you get a truck after that?
many of them.
Okay. Did you ever have a Duramax?
Yes,
Explain that.
it was a 2007
Did you have one after that?
Duramax. No, that's the only Duramax I've ever owned.
Would you put a lot of miles on your trucks, whatever truck you had?
Yes,
Explain that.
I probably put 40, 50,000 miles on a Duramax the first year I owned it.
Talk about your dad for just a moment again. After the murders, did you notice any change in his behavior?
He started drinking a lot more than he usually did, which he drank a lot anyways, but he just drank more than he did.
Now, you touched on yesterday, I believe I asked you about your weight. What's the heaviest you think you've been?
316, 320 maybe.
How would you weigh yourself if you're that big?
Usually,
Yeah.
whenever I was at one of the co-ops or something, I'd step on their feed scale.
And did you do anything to try to lose weight?
I diet pills multiple times.
And where did you get those diet pills?
One place in, well, two different ones in Kentucky and one in Huntington.
Explain how that works.
It's just a doctor's office and they weigh you and give you a prescription of diet pills and tell you how to take them. And then you come back every 2 months and they see if you've lost weight or not.
All right, did they work for you?
They do work and then they quit working and you got to get them out of your system and start again. And by the time you get them out of your system, you gain your weight back. So it's like a money gimmick.
No, I'm going to stop you right there, George.
I think you testified to me that you
All
consider
right.
Hannah.
Hold on. First of all, if you weigh enough and your BMI is such that a doctor would prescribe you diet pills, it's a lifestyle change. All right. You have to change your relationship with food. It's not a cure. All right. So don't be blaming the pills and don't be blaming the doctors. It's the fact of the matter is you took the diet pills. It suppressed your appetite, but you didn't learn how to manage your food. You didn't change your relationship with your food. Okay. Clearly it's working out for you now. And the only thing I can think of is that the food that they serve in the jail is gross and you're picky. I don't know, but you just have been able to lose weight and keep it off. I mean, you're not slim by any stretch of the imagination, but there's that.
Like a
Sorry.
little sister, is that right?
Yes.
I just,
What type of things would the two of you talk?
it's like he takes no accountability.
Everything
Everything's a
from
scam
hunting,
and
fishing,
everybody else's
oil,
fault.
County fairs to
Ow,
fall
stop
festivals.
clawing me, Alice.
Any
That
issues
hurts.
that she had that she was going through or anything I was going through.
Could you confide in her as well?
Yes.
What would you confide in her?
Issues about my weight and stuff when I couldn't lose weight and if I was having a bad week with Jake or my mother or if I had any issues with Tabby or
Under any circumstances, would you kill Hannah?
no,
Would you assist somebody else in killing Hannah?
no.
Now, after these murders took place, did you change your phone number?
At what point?
Well, at any.
Oh,
He said after. It's
before I
pretty
moved-
broad.
Right before I moved
Oh
to
my
Alaska, I got
God.
another phone, like two of them. So I was waiting
Ow,
on the service. to
Alice,
run
that
out on
hurts.
Thurston.
And did you change your numbers more than once after?
After Alaska?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why did you do that?
Our attorney Clark advised to do it.
I'll be right back, you guys, but I'll be in chat.
When you were up in Alaska with Vine and your family, Did you ever offer to fly Tabby up to see you?
Many a times.
Explain that.
I offered to pay for her plane ticket, her any expenses that she had, so she could come see Vine, and she never would come.
Hold the phone. Hold the phone. How are you offering all these times but
Did
you
you-
got
once
laid
you got
off
to know
and
Beth
blah blah?
After your
Whatever,
brother
George.
married her.
All right, for reals, I'll be in chat
Did you
now.
think Beth was like Tabby in some ways?
As the
Schmied
way
is in
she
charge.
acted or her
Well, yeah.
life.
The way she
Some
acted.
things she did, yes, and it was more in lines of everything that she said had happened to her, and it damages a person.
Okay. Explain what you mean by that.
I just see it when a girl is sexually molested at a young age, it messes with them.
And did that cause you concerns as far as your son is concerned?
Yes,
What were those concerns?
I just didn't want to take a chance of anything happening to him. As comparison with like my ex-wife, her and her sisters think that it's normal, it happens to every child, that they'll just get over it if it happens to them, which isn't right.
And had you read any books about this as you were raising Vine
On
on childhood development or what happens to kids when they're young or anything like that?
No.
That's just what you believe.
Yes. Mainly from me growing up around Tabby.
Understood. Did you ever have an issue with your mother trying to access your phone?
Her, not really, I'm not gonna say accessing it, but constantly looking over my shoulder trying to get the password to it.
Explain what you
I
mean.
changed my password like daily because she would try and figure out what my password was.
How do you know that?
She was always looking over my shoulder when I put my password in.
Was that before the murders?
Far back as I've had an iPhone.
Now, when you lived over on Peterson Road, did you ever make money other than driving trucks?
Multiple different ways.
Did you ever cut up trucks?
Yes.
Explain that.
My grandfather, my mom's father, would have people come by that would have a diesel Dodge truck or a diesel Chevy or whatever kind of truck really, but they would owe on the truck and they would want out from under it. So I'd give them $500 to $1,000 and they'd give me the truck and give me a week to chop it up and sell it. And then they'd report it stolen and turned in on the insurance company.
And so explain how that works as far as chopping up and selling.
You just take it apart piece by piece and then you sell the different parts to different people.
And you did that when you lived on Peterson.
Yes.
Do you know approximately how many trucks?
I believe 5.
Do you remember the colors of any?
1 burgundy, 2 white, a black one and a green one.
And where did you keep those on the Peterson property when you were going through this?
When I would first bring them home,
Yeah.
they would go up on the hill, and then when I'd start taking them apart, I'd put them on the back concrete slab of the old barn,
Okay, now when you say up on the hill, where do you mean?
up by the hog pens.
Up by the hog.
Yes.
Let me show you the photo. So you can get a better understanding. You know where the new barn is, right?
Yes,
Was it near the new barn?
between the new barn and the hog pens,
And why did you put it up there?
there's kind of like a dip in the ground there. You can't see it from the road unless you're coming back from, if you were to go down Peterson past the farm and turn around, you could see it coming back, but you couldn't see it from if you were just at the house looking up.
All right. Now, Peterson Road, that comes off 32, am I right?
Yes,
Is that a dead-end road or is it through?
it's dead end.
So if you continue past your house on Peterson towards the dead-end part, describe what's down the road there.
There's only 4 other houses down through there.
Do you know how far it goes about?
Maybe a mile, mile and a quarter.
I want to show you an exhibit here from the state. Probably remember this testimony, but XX1. When you were in Montana, you remember that, correct?
Yes,
And you remember, do you know whether the state took a computer or not from?
I believe they took my brother's.
XX1 is an item which is labeled BC item 62, HP NV laptop. Do you know if that's your brother's computer or whose computer that is?
Don't remember it being HP. I remember my brother's being an Apple, but I
Okay,
could be wrong on that.
all right. Did your mother have a computer or other item that she would use?
She had iPads.
Is that what she liked to use?
Yes,
And what did your brother like to use?
iPhone, Apple, anything Apple.
All right. What about this HP? Do you remember this computer?
I don't remember an HP.
When you were on Facebook, how would you access Facebook?
My phone.
Your phone.
Yes.
Did you use the computer?
I had an Acer just to check deer cameras with.
What do you mean check deer camera?
You take your SD card out of your trail camera and put it in the chip reader, stick it in, and view your pictures.
All right. And just explain briefly what a trail camera is.
It's just a camera you strap to a tree.
What's
It's got
the
an-
purpose of
It's
that?
got an infrared beam. When a deer walks across it, it snaps a picture of it
Why would you do that?
to see what size deer I had on the property for the year.
Did you often use a computer?
Only to check the trail cam photos.
And if you used Facebook, how did you access it?
My phone.
Now, you heard some testimony earlier about being called custody documents.
Yes,
That was, one was signed by you,
yes.
one was signed by your brother, I believe,
I think so, yes.
and that would have been in April before the murder.
Sometime before. I don't know the exact date.
What were the circumstances? Tell us what you know about that document you signed.
I came home one day and I was going to my room, change clothes, and go back out the door. And my mom said that she was filling one out for my brother and asked if I wanted one that was more legit than the handwritten one I had. And I told her if she wanted it, she had like 10 minutes to get it and I had to go. And I signed my name and walked out.
Okay, so break that down a little bit. All right, do you remember when that was?
Sometime early 2016.
All right, and the document that you signed, had it been completed? Was it blank? What did you know about it?
It was just like a printed out form.
Did you read it?
No, I just signed my name to it.
And what'd you do after you signed your name?
I walked out the front door and left again.
And you said something about a handwritten document?
Yes.
Explain what you mean.
When Tabby and I first got married, we had one written up when we found out we were going to have Vine. If anything ever happened to the two of us, that my mom would end up with Vine.
All right,
And then after we got divorced, we had another one. Well, I had one that if anything happened to me, then my mom got Vine.
and what was your understanding of this document she wanted you to sign as you were coming in and out and changing your clothes?
I just assumed she was making another one that was more legitimate looking than my handwritten one. Whether it matters or not, it's not the only ones I've ever had done.
Explain what you mean.
I had another one done when I was in Alaska, and I had another one done when I came back from Alaska.
Now, I want to ask you some questions about those recordings we listened to last week. When you were in the truck, as you now know, BCI placed listening devices in the truck, right?
Yes,
Did you know that at the time you were driving the truck?
100% positive, no, but I assume there was every likelihood of it.
That was after they had interrogated you in Montana, right?
Yes,
Did you know that your telephone all your telephone calls were being
I
recorded?
assumed they were.
So let me ask you a few questions. During that time frame when you're working for R&L, what was your mindset, so to speak, about the investigation and whether your family was guilty or not guilty? What was your mindset?
I believe that they were just trying to frame my mom, my brother, and my family for the fact that they didn't have anybody else to look at.
Why did you think that?
because I was raised to believe that all law enforcement was crooked, and I thought they just wanted to close the case and didn't care about it being right or wrong.
Now, yesterday, I think you talked for a minute, testified for a moment about your caffeine consumption.
Yes,
When you're in that truck, were you following that habit or routine of yours as far as consuming caffeine?
yes, it's been an everyday thing of mine since I was like 16.
Now, one of the conversations, if you remember, it was between you and your mother, concerned something about a bug detector.
Yes,
Do you remember that?
yes.
Can you explain?
My father bought a bug detector and 2 GPS trackers in early 2015.
And what's a GPS tracker?
It magnetics itself to a frame, and then you retrieve it at a later date. You can see everywhere that tracker has gone or stopped at.
So are you telling us that that conversation was in reference to that?
Yes,
Do you remember a conversation, maybe more than one, between you and Jake while you're in the truck? Between you and Jake about that being a spy?
yes.
Explain that.
Our attorney Clark had said that,
Your Honor, objection to anything his attorney said.
It's not for the truth of the matter, it's just to explain his mindset.
Your Honor, that's hearsay.
It's not being offered for the truth.
Well, I'm not sure where we're going with this. Council wish to approach you.
Yeah.
Just so y'all know, I drink 1 5-hour energy drink and cookie and 1 cup of coffee every single day, and I don't scream like a banshee in a truck or in a car or in a box with a fox. I do not throw tantrums here or there. I do not scream anywhere. Not like that anyway. See, Kate, I'm with you. Like, I mean, I'm not a long haul trucker, but I would imagine the same level of like pressure and, constantly go, 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 work, work, work applies to being a YouTube content creator. Probably maybe a little extra because hello, it's YouTube. Kate. So my point is that I would say that there's a level, a close level maybe of stress on a YouTube content creator. It's a high level, a high stress level, and I don't act like that. I've gone without sleep for various reasons, not even related to the YouTubes, and I don't act like that. So sorry, George. Not buying it. Thank you, Amelia. I do love some Dr. Seuss.
Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, the question, I think, will elicit some response or may elicit some response from the witness concerning something he was told. Now, what he is told is could be hearsay, and if it were being admitted for the truth of the matter asserted. You are not to receive it for the truth of the matter asserted, but simply to explain the defendant's actions after receiving this information. Is that clear? It's not
Crystal
being
clear, Your
admitted what
Honor.
he was told. It's not being admitted for the truth of the matter asserted, but only to explain the defendant's actions. So you may ask the question.
Thank you, Judge. What did your attorney tell you?
From the way I understood it was that BCI would stoop to any level to get information about my family, and that they would try and send a woman in there to get close to me or my brother and get information.
Does that explain some of the conversations we heard on the recordings between you and your brother about that?
Yes, because she didn't know my brother at all and married him within like 3 months. And
Y'all, they did not
I just
send
didn't trust
a
her.
honey pot.
Not with everything that our family was being accused of.
Did you and your brother have the same idea?
In the form of Beth Ann to Jake Wagner. Stop it.
Not by a long shot.
Sweet Jesus.
My brother wanted to basically keep Sophie chained up in the house for her entire life until she graduated college.
What do you mean by that?
His remark was always that when she started
Prior
school,
objection to anything that his brother said. Hearsay.
I'll sustain that.
What was your understanding of your brother's idea of raising Sophie?
My-
Same objection.
That's not actually hearsay. That might be admissible.
That question, are you asking him what his brother told him? Is that what you're
I'm
asking?
asking what his understanding was.
Well, to the extent that if it's being offered to establish the truth of something his brother told him, then it's inadmissible hearsay, and I'll sustain the objection.
I'll rephrase, Judge. What was your idea of how to raise mine?
my idea of it was, I guess you could say I spoiled him.
In what ways?
I didn't ever tell him no. Whatever he wanted, I got it for him, and I got a lot of hell over that. And my main plan was that eventually when he was older, all kids are going to be kids, regardless of what you say or do. They're going to make their own mistakes. I've made mine. Everybody I know's made theirs. And they're going to do it anyway. Whether you tell them not to or whether you tell them to do it, they're going to do it. So my way of fixing that was I was just going to end up building like a great big lake one day on whatever piece of property I bought and have its own cabin on it from the time he turned as a teenager. So when he was out drinking and partying, which he's going to do, all kids do it, that he would be there and I wouldn't worry about him running up and down the roads instead of him running everywhere like I did.
Did you discuss this with your brother?
Yes.
Did he agree with
Objection.
your way or not?
The basis of your objection is,
It calls for hearsay.
your argument would be that it's not.
It's a yes or no question, Judge.
Well, I'm going to sustain the objection.
What?
Did you discuss Jake's philosophy on raising Sophie? Yes or no?
Yes.
Was that a source of disagreement between you and him?
Your Honor,
A massive.
objection to leading.
Well, I'll overrule the objection by an answer.
Yes, it was a massive disagreement.
Did you discuss with Jake the reasons for, this is a yes or no question. Did you discuss with Jake the reasons he was
Right,
married?
Kate? That's a
Yeah.
poppycock. Nobody
You
believes
believe he was
that.
truthful with you?
No, not at this point.
And why do you say that?
I'd object and move to strike on that, actually.
I'm sorry.
I'd object and move to strike on that. He's asking him to determine the mindset of somebody else.
I'll overrule the objection, let that answer stand.
Now, on these recordings that we heard over the last few days, you are heard talking about
They really
lawyers
do. And I don't
being
believe
hired or
anything.
consulted. Do you remember those?
Yes.
I don't believe anything he says
Explain your
about Tabby
understanding.
or Hannah
Which
with
ones?
respect to the,
Well, anyhow,
childhood situation.
take a
I
moment
think
and
they thought it
But
was
as
normal
far as my
until they
understanding was, he was
realized it
in, like,
wasn't.
Reserve in case we ever got arrested.
All
I didn't know at the time that he
When
couldn't
you're a
do
kid,
case
you
of this
don't know
magnitude.
what's
All right,
normal
go
and
on.
what's not.
And
You have to be taught.
basically, my understanding of it
I,
was that
I
he only thought that
suspect they
if
changed their
anybody got
minds.
arrested, it would be my mom and
Your
brother.
Honor, objection to what his attorney thought.
Well, yes, I will sustain the objection as to what someone else was thinking.
Did you remember, or thinking back on these recordings that we listened to, do you remember saying on the recordings anything about your mother and whether she should get an attorney or not? Do you remember any of that?
Yes.
What do you remember?
The conversation that I believe you're talking about is that if all of us were arrested, that my mother should get the best one.
And did you say that?
Yes,
Why did you say that?
because my mom's the one that watched the kids 5 days a week while we were gone anyway. They were used to being with her for 5 days a week, and I figured it would be easier on the children.
And were you thinking that, oh my God, I'm
Your
doing,
Honor, objection.
what were you thinking when you said that?
I was just going under what basically I understood from the attorneys, that if we got arrested, that it could take 6 months, it could take 2 years to get to a trial and be able to work things out.
Do you remember on some of the recordings we listened to, your mother saying that something about being framed?
Yes.
What do you recall?
My mom and brother has said that since the beginning. That's why I believe that we were being framed, because they said that they were twisting everything that my mom and brother had on their phones and laptops, and they were trying to frame us.
And was that your mindset during these conversations?
Yes.
After listening to these recordings that we heard in court, how do you feel about what Jake was saying and what you now know he did?
I now know that he was just lying through his teeth to me.
What about your mother?
Same thing. She was just lying to me from the beginning.
Did you ever tell your mother, referencing these recordings, did you ever tell your mother you would take the blame for these murders?
No, I did not.
While we were listening to these recordings, there was actually a text message that was shown to the jury between you and Josie. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Something about how really close your family is?
Yes.
Can you explain
We've
that
just,
text message?
we've just been in close proximity our whole life, and she was talking about moving down here at that time frame, and I just wanted her to understand that me and my family are fairly close with each other, and she said that was fine, and her family's the same way.
I
Did that
highly
text
doubt
have
her
anything to
family
do
is
with
the
these
same
murders?
No.
is the same way. I don't think she had any idea about what you
Referencing back to
meant.
these recordings again that we listened to, I remember hearing yourself say something along the lines of, this is a conversation between you and Jake. Every time I do something, you rat me out.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
It reverts to our childhood.
What do you mean?
It didn't matter what I did as a kid, my brother ran to tell my mother.
There was another recording we listened to.
So Jake's pretty much always been a
Well,
snitch.
actually,
Good to
swear.
know.
You said something about everybody's out to get us.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Everything that was being said on topics and Facebook, like everybody was against my family.
One of the
You don't even like
conversations
your
we listened
family, George. What are you
to
talking
involved
about?
your brother and your mother, and you were kind of in the background. Your mother said something about they're framing us. You remember that?
Yes.
And that she would take the death penalty.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
At that time, did you know your mom and brother were involved in these murders or committed the murders?
No.
Hmm.
I think it was in that same conversation where Jake says he will get out one way or another. Do you remember that?
Yes.
At that time, did you know he had killed these people?
No.
How about
was
the
under the assumption that he
conversation
was
where you guys were
referring
going to
to if he
make
got
a
framed and was
bulletproof
wrongfully
bulldozer to drive through the prison
And your voice
for-
is in the background.
for escape?
And you say, ain't gonna have the electric chair, or words to that effect.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
I just get irritated when people are messing with my family and stuff. Especially when I've been up for 5 days with no sleep and on massive amounts of caffeine, and it makes you irritable.
Did you know at that point that your mom and brother were actually guilty of anything?
No,
Are you guilty of any of these offenses?
no,
On that same recording or conversation, remember hearing your voice say, "I want to kill Ryan."
yes, I said that.
What did you mean by that? Explain the context.
It was more of a line like when you're angry at somebody, you say stupid stuff like that. Don't mean that you mean it. I think everybody said that about somebody at one point or another.
On a different recording that they played for the jury, the state played for the jury, do you remember hearing that Jake had called, you're in the Arnell truck, Jake had called the boss or the headquarters or something about a family emergency?
Yes,
You remember that?
yes.
What does that mean to you, or can you explain it?
He wanted to get back in time to talk to Clark before he left the office.
All right. So the phrase family emergency, does that have any significance with respect to your employment?
As far as getting home, it does, because if you want a direct route or you want to get home faster, then you have no other choice but to say that, or they won't give you a direct route or bring you home faster. And it really, we were at the end of our week anyways and on our way back. So instead of dropping off, you run the same road back regardless, but instead of stopping at 5 different terminals, you just get a straight load from one terminal to another one, back to Wilmington, instead of stopping at 5 different ones in between. It saves you roughly 10 hours.
One of the conversations that was played, your mother's telling you, at least one of them, your mother's telling you, don't talk on the phone.
Yes.
Can you explain?
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably hundreds of them saying that.
What's your, is that unusual for your mom to say something like that?
Not really. I mean, it was advice of the attorney.
In one of the conversations, there's something about Beth trying to poison one of the family.
Yes.
Do you know anything about that, or can you explain that?
I know the incident that's referring to.
Explain.
My mother tried saying she poisoned the ice cubes.
Who poisoned the
Beth.
Okay. What do you know about that?
I know that when I got home and done my little experiment, it ended up that she just didn't wash the Dawn dishwashing liquid out of it.
There was a conversation, I believe, between you and your brother about Beth again. And you say something about moving her into a low-income apartment.
I just wanted my brother to get her out of the house.
Why?
I didn't trust her.
Did you want her dead?
No.
There was another comment you made to your brother during one of these phone calls about you telling people the truth is the reason we're in this mess. You remember that?
Yes.
Can you explain it?
It falls back to, in the beginning, I believe that the finger was pointed at my family because my brother pissed off the Manleys. Which he does to almost everybody he's around.
Do you remember, I believe, a conversation, I believe it was with you and your mother, but you were involved, where you said something about wanting to own your own little farm out west?
Yes.
Can you explain that?
I was going to eventually, at that point in time, I was going to transfer to Missouri's terminal after a year and buy me a farm out there.
Are you familiar with the phrase Winter Olympics or Olympics?
Yes.
What does that mean?
That's what I made.
Okay, explain it.
It's my own wording for it. But
What is that?
me and there's really only 3 of us, but I'm I guess you'd call the founding father of it.
What is it?
Me, Chris, and Randa started our own like deer hunting regime.
Okay, explain it.
When I had Vine and got married to Tabby and moved to Peterson and started hauling cattle, I didn't have a whole lot of time to deer hunt anymore. So instead of living without my freezer filled full of deer and not being able to have deer to eat every day, me and Chris and Randall would go out every night when I come in on the weekends and stuff and fill the freezer up.
And what time of year would you do this?
Between the end of September and Christmas. I usually cut off at Christmas.
Is that deer season?
Yes.
And so what would you do with the deer that you killed?
I would usually skin every one of them, process them, put them in the freezer. The ones that went past the tag limits I do myself. Ones that were legally tagged, I would take to the processor
And did you eat deer meat often?
daily,
Every day?
every day,
More than once or just one meal?
2-3 times a day.
Did you process and use for food all the deer that you killed?
Everyone I've ever shot but one.
Why? What was up with that one?
Chris and I shot one that was filled full of gangrene.
After you returned from Alaska back to Ohio, you lived on South Webster for a while,
Yes,
and that was the house where your mother grew up in?
yes,
Did you ever have a conversation with her about that house?
yes.
What was your understanding?
Your Honor, objection again, anything calling for hearsay?
Well, it sounds like it may be hearsay.
I'll rephrase it. Thank you. Without telling us.
Morning, Jen.
To that house.
Yes,
Response.
I told her no.
Was it similar to what happened to the houses on Bethel Hill?
Yes,
I could have just a moment.
Sorry, you guys. My oldest son called and
Just a couple more questions.
he was upset, so I had to.
Did you know your family
Talk
was
to
gonna
him.
kill these people
no,
How many times are you going to ask him that?
before it happened? Did you know?
no,
After it happened, did you know?
no,
Did you ever have any conversations with your brother about it?
no,
Did you ever talk to your mom about it?
no,
Your dad?
no.
If you had known this was going to happen, what would you have done?
I don't know exactly how, but I would have stopped it one way or another.
Did you love him?
Yes,
Did you consider Frankie a good friend?
I considered him my best friend.
Looking at Wagner Exhibit 53-1, this is your wedding photo, right?
Yes,
You have one arm around who?
Tabby,
You have another arm around who else?
Frankie.
Judge Agnew for the question. Thank you very much.
I'm going to pause right here because I just want to discuss this briefly, and then what I would suspect is that they're going to go to take their morning break before cross-examination begins. If they don't, we'll start with we'll continue with the cross-exam, and then when they do take their morning break, I'm going to go because I've got stuff I have to do. And this is why I get frustrated when court doesn't start on time because, I have things to do, yo. Anyway, um, here's the thing. This is where it's going to be very difficult for the jury to believe that he was unaware because he was so aware of all of the other crimes that his family was committing, and he was involved in the other. Yes, Jen. And he was involved in the other crimes. He was involved in the stealing of the fuel. He was involved in the learning how to pick locks and stealing the money from vending machines. He was involved in the burning down of houses on Bethel Hill. He knew about it. He was aware it was happening. He took measures. The last time they did it, he was married to Tabby, and he had Bullvine at that time. And he knew that they were going to do it, and he took precautions. He removed his stuff from that home so that it wouldn't be destroyed in the fire. I find it very, very, very difficult to believe that he had no knowledge of this crime. at all. At all. Because even Beth, who, bless her little heart, wasn't real worldly as a you know what I'm saying? Like, she lived a rather sheltered life. She was quite naive about uh, the world. And even she knew after marrying Jake and moving from Alaska back to Ohio, even she knew something was up. Even she knew something was wrong. And these people, to be to put not to put too fine a point on it, they were strangers to her. I mean, let's be honest. She did not know Jake that well when she married him. And even if you date for a real long time, you don't know somebody until you live with them, and that's just facts. There's a whole lot of things that people can hide when you're only around them for limited amounts of time. But when you live with somebody, you learn everything. And I just find it very, 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 very difficult to believe that he had absolutely no, as Chris Watts would put it, inclination that that they were part of it. I mean, come on, George. It's kind of a fucking insult, sir. I would believe him if he said, I suspected, but I had no concrete proof, and that's why I didn't intervene. I would have more respect for that statement than this malarkey. All right, here we go.
The state may cross-examine.
And they're already starting with the recordings. I hear her firing up the laptop.
Let's go ahead and start with Frankie. You consider him your best friend,
Yes.
better than Chris Newcomb?
Chris Newcomb's not my friend. Chris Newcomb's my brother.
Thought you considered him more than just a brother, even.
Chris Newcomb should have been my brother.
Okay. So in 2012, you have your arm around Frankie. He's standing next to you at your wedding.
Yes.
And prior to the homicides, when had you ever talked to Frankie?
The last time beforehand?
Yes.
Probably late December.
Late December of 2015?
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it true that you told us that you didn't even know Hannah Hazel?
I have met her one time in my life.
But at the border, when you were interviewed in 2017, you said you had never met her, that the last person you knew Frankie to be seeing was some girl named Angel. And that was before you got married in 2012.
Angel was before Chelsea.
You indicated at the border that the last person you knew Frankie to be seeing was some girl named Angel, and that was when you still had your pulling truck, which was before you got married.
Not that I remember. I could be wrong on that, but not that I remember.
Okay. You didn't even know Ruger's name, correct?
I didn't know Ruger's name at the time.
In 2017, when you were talked to, you did not know.
Because I hadn't
Ruger's
met him
name.
yet.
Say it again?
I had never met Ruger.
Okay. So you'd never met Hannah Hazel. Usually a woman's pregnant for 9 months, and Ruger was 6 months at the time of birth. That's at least 15 months where you didn't know Hannah Hazel,
Never met her.
never met her. But Frankie was your best friend.
Yes. Who I consider my best friend.
Okay. Who you blocked on Facebook.
Who I did not block on Facebook.
Well, he was blocked on your Facebook.
It might be, but it didn't happen for me.
Okay. And you did not have any Facebook conversations with Frankie either, did you?
Not very many that I remember.
As in zero.
Not that I remember.
Okay. And you indicated, well, would just say, what is the age difference between you and Frankie?
Between me and Frankie?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say about 3.5 years.
Or maybe 4?
Could be close to 4, 3.5, 4,
Okay.
Come
So
on, you
your
big baby.
best friend is 4 years younger than you.
roughly.
And this is the person that you said that you hung out with at Big Bear Lake.
Yes.
And you would drink with
Yes.
when you were 18.
When I was 18, 19.
Okay. So he was 14 and 15.
Yes.
And you're the only one of his friends that says he drinks.
If his other friends are saying he doesn't, they're lying.
Oh,
They
Because Brett
They-
Hatfield sat right there with me,
Okay.
and Frankie. So did Chelsea. We all did.
Okay. You've seen the crime scene photos.
Yes.
Okay. Any alcohol there at Frankie's?
I didn't pay attention to him for that.
Lots of pop cans in the crib and lots of pop on the kitchen table, but no alcohol.
I didn't pay attention if there was any alcohol cans or not.
Okay. So would you buy the alcohol for Frankie?
No, I did not.
Who did?
The last time
Well-
the last time we hung out, or the majority of them, would be Tony's son, is who went to the briar patch and brought it.
Okay. So,
well, if George was 18 or
This was
19,
before
he
you were
couldn't have
married,
bought it because you
right?
got to be 21 to buy alcohol.
Before
So
we got
that
married, yes. When we
tracks,
went
but
down
so
there.
again,
still.
we're talking before 2012.
Yes,
And you indicated that that was, at the border, you indicated that the time that you would be down at Big Bear Lake was while you were attending the diesel mechanic school, correct?
correct.
And you attended for a year.
Yes.
And was this a year-round thing at Big Bear Lake?
It was all summer.
Alice, no.
All summer. So a summer you spent down there at Big Bear Lake.
2. Roughly 2. 1.5, 2.
Okay. So 1.5
Or
to 2
two.
summers. You-
I say 1.5 brother was kicked out.
Okay. And you remember Chelsea testifying,
Yes.
okay? Is it true that you reached out to her at some point?
At one point in time, me and Chelsea started talking, yes.
Okay. And Frankie found out about that
Yes.
and he was upset.
Oh,
In the
gosh,
beginning, yes, I
Corky.
explained it was nothing more than friends.
Okay.
It's all right. Alice is all
So,
tangled up in
Then
the
Chelsea's lying when she said that
headphone
that
cord
put
and
a,
making a
you guys
complete
held grudge
butt of
against each
herself
other after that,
for
and
literally
your
zero
friendship-
reason.
We did not
Dissipated.
hold a grudge against each other after that.
Okay. So she's lying.
I'm not saying she's lying, I'm saying she's mistaken.
Okay. But you never met Hannah Hazel and didn't know Rigger's name?
No.
Okay. You also indicated Frankie was a fighter,
You just stay right where you're at, ma'am.
that you've seen videos of him fighting,
Yes.
and that you would have to go through Frankie to get to anyone in the family.
More than likely, yes.
I mean, that's what you said.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't see Frankie letting anybody mess with his family.
Or Kenneth, right?
I don't see anybody in their family letting anybody mess with their family.
Okay. And you knew Kenneth to be a pretty strong person, correct? Okay. And by comparison, you were indicating that you lift an engine block out of a vehicle by yourself.
I have not out of a vehicle, but loaded onto a trailer at one point.
Okay. But you thought that Kenneth was even stronger than you.
Probably by twice,
You described him as strong as a bull ox, right?
if not more than that.
Okay. Kind of how Jake described you, correct?
Kind of.
Okay.
I feel like
Guess we'll start with your
I kind of feel like
upbringing, where you committed
that child might be my spirit
unlimited
animal.
number
I
of
feel like
offenses
if
with
I
your
was
family,
monkeying around in a
theft offense.
waiting
More than
room
likely
as a
counting
kid,
theft.
Okay.
yeah, I'd probably get my head
And
stuck in a
You
chair.
guys each had your own roles.
It somewhat
when you would
seems
commit
on
those
brand
thefts.
for
Is that correct?
yours truly.
Not really.
Okay.
It was more of like everybody did it.
Everybody did it?
Everybody done the same thing.
Okay. So you're opening up a truck, you're looking to see if there's anything in there that you guys want. You're making the decision kind of as a
Whether
family.
it's worth taking or not.
Okay. And sometimes somebody wants diapers and the other person wants Rocky boots and you guys talk about it and
There was not really me talking about that one.
okay,
That was between my dad, my mom, and my dad's friends.
okay. But if you look at something, you discuss whether or not it's worth taking.
While we're in the middle of it, yes.
Okay, all right. And you indicated you had this game, I guess, of finding the trail cams, right? When you're driving down the road, if you could spot trail cams, you got $1 for every trail cam you found or
Not the
whatever?
trail cams,
Oh,
video cameras,
surveillance,
yes.
okay.
And the surveillance cameras wasn't for the $1, that was spotting cops.
See,
Okay, so you tell me,
his
what were the games attached to
his
finding
attitude
surveillance?
towards
The
women
surveillance
is
cameras
coming
wasn't
out.
When we got older, if my brother and I didn't see one that my dad had seen, and when he pointed out, well, you missed this one, then we'd get our four-wheeler taken for a weekend or a week. Or
Okay. And when you say older, how old were you then?
this would have been 04, or no, 04, 05.
Okay. So how old would you have been?
I would have been 13, 14.
Okay. And you're aware, well, so you would be taught to look for surveillance systems.
Yes,
How did you go about that? What made you good at that?
you would just constantly go up and down the streets, or if we walk through Walmart or drive down the road, my dad would constantly beat it in your head. And if we missed one, he would take us back and keep looping the block or the parking lot until we found where it was at.
Okay. Did you ever do the same thing for trail cams?
No.
Okay. But you also were always looking for police officers,
Yes,
and that's where the $1 comes
Yes.
in.
that started when I was a young kid and we were still running back and forth to Pennsylvania.
Okay, so if you could spot a police officer before your dad did.
Yes, we
Right.
got $1.
And you were aware that at some point, BCI thought that you used that night scope that you had bought
Yes,
to spot trail cams.
yes,
Okay, because it can detect that infrared, correct?
not aware that it came.
Okay, you did not use that purpose. Is that correct?
No, it was used for the Winter Olympics.
Okay, and the Winter Olympics
What?
again is
Me and my Uncle Chris Miranda shooting deer.
at night,
Oh,
Yes,
I see.
poaching.
yes,
I mean, that's against the
yes,
hunting rules and regulations. Okay. And you bought that night scope yourself, right?
technically it was a gift from my father.
Okay, so tell me about that.
My father paid for it for a gift for me.
Okay. Were you with him at the time?
When we got it, yes,
Okay. And where did you get it?
Bass Pro Shop.
Okay, and do you remember when you got it?
Not technically, no.
Okay.
Isn't it
Does
though?
fall
They
of
are
15
just so
sound
weird,
correct?
Kate. And
Could be,
Okay.
Ugh, yes,
You
Jen.
described that scope specifically, right?
yes.
These people are a
kind of
mess.
It's an ATN night or ATNX site.
Huh? I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what you just said.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked as CCC2. If you could look at that and tell me if you recognize any purchase on that.
Yeah,
And what do you recognize?
the ATNX site's on it.
Okay, how much was that?
Huh?
How much was that?
The Billy and Angela Wagner.
$641.
Okay. Paid with cash?
their moms, probably through their
Yes,
parents, honestly. I mean,
Yes,
And
R-
with Jake's rewards card. correct?
Rita, you know, Rita has some, she's done some things, and Frederica
I'm trying to see it on here, hang on.
has, done some stuff too. If I'm remembering right, Frederica used to
I don't see his rewards
Offer-
card number on here, I just see his name.
like for sale by owners,
Okay.
owner financing, and
true that you
and
used
for whatever reason,
Jake's
nobody
rewards card whenever you shopped at
was
Bass Pro.
ever able to
Occasionally,
end
not
up
all the time.
owning it. Like, I'll have to look into it and get
Um,
back to you, Jen, because I remember something about it, but
He's listed as the
not all the
purchaser because
things.
his rewards card was
Probably.
used.
Probably.
He did not purchase that, correct?
What?
Jake did not purchase that scope.
I withdraw my.
No, my father paid for it.
Okay. And you were present.
I was there that day, yes.
Okay. Was your brother present that day?
Don't remember on that.
Okay. Did you guys like to shop at Bass Pro?
It's about the only store that I actually shop at.
Okay.
I shop at other ones occasionally, but the majority is Bass Pro.
She ain't trying to get to know you, George. Don't help her. Don't give her any other extra answers, but do give her extra answers because we all want to hear it.
You were just talking about chopping up vehicles.
Me, it's me. I want to hear it.
Explain that to me.
Would you like explain with it?
Yeah, so you said people would give you their vehicles, you would chop them up and sell them, and then they would report them stolen. So tell me,
Technically not give, I paid for them. And then they would report them later.
okay, so you
Huh?
would pay,
Anywhere from $500 to $1,000, depending on what the truck was.
okay,
If it was a gas engine truck, it was on the $500 line. If it was a diesel, it's $1,000.
okay. And then those individuals would report it stolen and then
Yes.
get
They
money from
get
their
out from under,
insurance.
get out from under the loan.
Okay.
The
And so-
insurance company would pay their loan off.
And who were these people?
Just different people in Southwestern Ohio.
Yes, who were
You
these
obviously knew
people?
them.
No. I just would stop, pick up, hand them some money, and I would take the truck out. My grandfather knew them.
Okay. So how would you know that they would then report it stolen and that was their plan?
That's what my grandfather would relay to me,
Okay, and which grandfather is this?
Carter.
And when did those sorts of things happen?
I started doing that when I moved to Peterson.
Okay. And how long did that go on?
The last one I did was, I believe, early 2016.
Okay. Your insurance, the truck that you guys had bought off of Bernie Brown also was the victim of an arson, correct?
To my understanding, it was accidental.
So you did not know that that was purposely set on fire?
I don't believe it was set on fire on purpose, no.
Okay, well, you
Would you
heard-
like detail into that?
Oh,
Sure.
God.
My
What a
father had his
jerk.
own method of burning a vehicle. That truck was still left standing.
So you're just going to rat your whole family out?
So
No
if your
different than your
father
brother. Well,
potentially, it
all
would have
right.
been-
It would have been nothing but a hulk of a frame sitting there and no body left on it.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for clearing that up.
But it was inoperable after that.
It caught fire on the inside and it smothered itself out, yes.
Okay. And you guys collected on insurance for that?
My father did, yes,
Okay, well, the Wagner Trucking Company did, right?
which is my father's company.
Okay.
His
You-
DOT number.
Yeah,
his
you
truck.
got paid through the Wagner Trucking
I
Company.
worked for it, yes.
And then in October of 2016, your truck was intentionally wrecked by Jake and Chris.
Yes.
And
Hey,
then
Sugar
that's because it
Beet.
needed fixed.
No,
Neither have I,
So,
Sugar
So
Beet.
you're
This is
telling the
going to be
truth
a
about
first time for
intentionally
your
wrecking it,
girl
but he was
here.
lying about you
Correct.
needing a large amount of repair.
correct.
Okay. But you agree that it was intentionally wrecked.
I agree it was intentionally wrecked between me and Chris.
You said between you and Chris?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you mean by that?
We had an agreement that we would split what he got out of it.
And that was to help him out because he needed money?
To help me and him both, yes.
Okay. And you know that's a crime?
Yes.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking, of course, is because yesterday you told us you gave up your life of crime in 2014 or 2015.
That's what I said.
What did you say?
I said I gave up busting in the trailers and stealing fuel.
And stealing what?
Fuel.
Okay.
Our bad.
Because you didn't want to look over your shoulder, I think.
Correct.
Okay. But these crimes you weren't worried about
That was
getting caught.
to my knowledge, that truck was the last one I tried. The first thing I've ever tried on my own without my family's involvement.
Okay.
And
Well-
it failed rapidly.
The truck that you wrecked.
That my brother and Chris wrecked.
Yeah. So
we
you said
agree.
without your family's help, obviously you had your family's help because Jake.
When I say my family's help, I mean my father and my mother's ideals of doing it.
Okay. All right.
Oh, thanks for clearing that up there, buddy. I was confused. Now I'm set straight. So thanks for that.
So I'm unclear, when you said that your parents, or I think your father bought Jake the truck of his dreams before he was even able to drive, and yet you got stuck with a $2,500
Correct.
truck. Of course, obviously, he buys you scopes and gives you motorcycles and stuff, so,
Correct.
I mean, but are you trying to say that Jake was the favorite, or?
I'm trying to say that I don't hold the truck against my father. I hold that against my mother.
Okay,
Oh, all right. Gotcha.
even though your dad's the one that bought it.
It was my dad's money that paid for it. My mother made him pay for it.
Okay.
Wow. Wee wah wah.
So you would not say that Jake was the favorite child
Of my mother's, yes.
of your mother's?
Yes.
Okay. So you recall that that's not what you said at the border, right?
Huh?
I don't remember much of what I've said at the border.
Okay,
I remember some of it, but not all of it.
okay. Well, you were asked, it was stated to you, your mom and Jake are tight. Do you think they're closer than you and your mom? And you said, no. My mom's never given me a reason to think that they were closer. Do you remember that?
As far as like talking wise, that would be true. But as far as favoritism, as my brother getting everything, it's not true.
You certainly didn't explain that at the border.
I wasn't asked that.
Obviously, when you were growing up, you were the kind of rebel rouser, right?
Yes. Kate,
Pretty much.
yes.
You were drinking at a young age.
Yes,
Jake wasn't.
not to my knowledge.
Okay. He was helping with the chores. You weren't.
Yes,
And
But that's not actually
you agree
helpful
with
to
me
him because
not the usual request parent that you not do those things.
he
for not letting a child go out and drink and party.
At age 12 and 13, I think is when you said you
I think
started.
that's about normal for any parent not to want their kid to.
his
Okay.
you know his
In fact,
it was his
you
dad
want your son to do
who carried
half the things
out
you did growing up,
the
correct?
Do
plan.
I
So
want
that
him to? No,
Jake being a
But is he
mama's
going to?
boy
more than likely. Every
doesn't
child
actually
does,
help George.
except for one that I've seen that didn't.
Huh? What'd you say, George? I missed that. Sorry.
And I guess you tried, or at least it seemed yesterday that you were talking about Jake as if you hardly even liked him
At which point in time?
any
Any?
point in time.
From early childhood, it wasn't that bad with him because we were just little kids. But the older we got, the worse he got.
Okay.
And at the last point, I might get 10 good days out of 100 with him, maybe.
Okay. But you just saw that text message in 2018, right, to Josie,
Yes,
where you're saying, I'm really close with my family. You're kind of warning her or making sure that she's okay with that because you were contemplating having her come live with you, right?
not at the house I was staying in, though.
Say it again.
Not at the house I was staying in, though.
Okay. But you wanted her to come live with you.
I wanted her to move down here eventually because that's what she was talking about, but I wasn't going to let her move in the house with my mother.
Okay. You didn't want her in the house with your mother.
Correct.
Hey, Allie, good morning. Good to see you. Excuse me. George, this is probably not a good time to be getting an attitude. Try to keep it chill, but keep doing what you're doing because
So
just shows
in
you for
July
who
of
you really are.
2018, when you were talking to your mother on the phone, when you said that you wanted your own little farm somewhere out west where I can still make a living and where me and Jake can live peacefully with you and the kids and whoever else we decide to bring, so we can have a nice, peaceful life without all of that crap and the drama from everyone.
Am I allowed to explain this?
Did you say that?
Yes, I said that.
Okay,
Am I allowed to go into detail with this?
sure.
It doesn't mean live in the same house. It means buy a bigger farm and he has a house on one corner, she has a house on one corner, and I've got a house on a corner.
Okay, kind of like what you guys were considering doing when you moved to Missouri, right?
Everybody had their own house on a different side of the piece of property.
On the property all together, but each have your own home.
Yes, so we have our own place.
Okay. And here you wanted to go back out west in July of 18, right?
Yes,
After having wanted to come back to Ohio in 2017, right? Or earlier in 2018, actually,
yes,
right? So you'd actually just come back to Ohio in 2018.
yes.
Okay.
You know, George, I'm not really buying this
And there
whole.
was talk of
I don't know. When I don't
Josie,
want to be around
you know,
anybody, my family,
understands
because I don't get
what the
along
children
with
have
them or
been
I don't
through
like
and-
them or whatnot,
she would be.
there's not
fine to live
enough
with you guys.
distance
Yes,
for me.
I know you talked about your mother and you said, well, you describe her to me.
she is. Thinks she's better than everybody. Thinks everything has to be done her way. I would probably say that I could put selfish in that, manipulative.
Okay.
It's not a very good Google
And
review of
again,
your
I
mom.
mean, this is new and different than what you told us at the border, right? That's not what you said about your mother at the border, right?
Don't remember what I said at the border.
Okay. Well, you were asked if your mom was controlling. I bet your mom is so controlling that she probably even organized the whole thing. And you said, my mom is not controlling. You were asked, your mom's not controlling? You said, no, at all. Do you remember saying
I
that?
don't remember saying that.
Okay. Well, is that true?
That she's
Oh,
not
I'm so
controlling.
sorry,
Correct.
Allie.
Before my 10th birthday, she wasn't so bad that I can remember.
Sending
But
prayers
she
to
got
you,
worse as the
babe.
years went by.
Okay. So in 2017, when you were asked that question and you said she's not controlling,
She
was that
tried to be.
true or not?
As
That's
far
a good
as
point,
actually
Kate.
controlling me, no, she didn't.
Okay.
But she tried to control me. If that answers your question.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what the truth is. Considering you said one thing at the border and you said an entirely different thing yesterday and today. So, in fact, you were asked about the dynamics in your house.
Yes,
In fact, asked who runs the house. Do you remember what your response was?
it's technically my mother's house.
Okay. You actually answered between me and Jake. Was your response to who runs the house? And you were asked over your parents? And you said, nope, the house is mine and Jake's basically. Mom just stays there because she's got a lot of health issues and she babysits the kids.
She does babysit the kids and have health issues, but the house technically belongs to her. The house is in me and my brother's name, and we pay the bills there, but it's still technically her house.
Okay. So when you were asked who's the one that always gets their way, who's in charge, do you remember saying that kind of goes between me and my brother?
Don't remember putting my brother's name in it, but I always did what I wanted to.
Okay. Well, in your responses, you said you and Jake run the house, and between you and your brother is who gets their way.
I may have said that, but I just don't remember it.
Okay. Well, was that true?
Was me and my brother getting our way? When I wanted to do something, I did it. Anything my brother wanted to do, my mom agreed with.
So when you were asked who's in charge and you said that kind of goes between me and my brother over my parents, is that true?
I'm not understanding what you mean by who's in charge.
What's your response? It's your answer. So I'm asking
I'm just not
you.
understanding what you mean by who's in charge here.
Okay, well, that's what you were asked. But who's the one that always gets their way? Question mark. Who's in charge? Question mark. And your response is that kind of goes between me and my brother.
So I can only
is that
assume
true?
what you want me to explain what I mean by that? As like the in charge part or the get your way part?
If you can answer yes or no first and then explain, is
Well,
it true?
yes.
Is that a true answer?
I would say yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's an excellent point,
I
Kate.
know
It's
at
an
some
excellent
You
point.
talked about how your mother would get upset with you because you were out hunting 24/7.
Hunting, fishing, four-wheeling.
Okay. And you'd be away working and then you'd come back and you'd hunt on the weekends.
Yes,
Okay. And she thought you should spend more time with your son at that time, correct?
yes.
Okay. And then you said at some point, she said something along the lines of, you can just go away and I'll take care of Bullvine full time.
This was at South Webster after I moved back from Alaska.
Okay. You talked about these custody documents that you and your brother signed, and your mother forged the signature for Hannah on, correct? All in the same magical day, correct?
Yes,
And you obviously heard the testimony that happened at the kitchen table in your house and
it was in the kitchen.
in the kitchen, okay? So you agree with that?
I agree. I signed my name to mine in the kitchen and left.
Okay. And you indicated you just signed that.
Yes,
So you trust your mother.
I trust my mother 75, 80%. There's some parts of her I don't trust.
Okay.
Can you
But
break
signed
that
this
math
document
down a
saying
little more
if
for
you
me?
were to be killed or something happened to you, she would get your child.
Who else would I leave him to? I have no one else to leave him to.
Yeah. But it was dated 2015, and that's not when you signed those documents.
I didn't know what
right?
date was on it. I signed it early 16,
You signed it in April.
sometime of 16. I don't know the exact date.
Well, obviously sometime after April 3rd of 2016, because that was when it was printed off the computer.
Could be. I don't know the exact date. I
You've
just know it
seen
was
the
16.
documents.
Didn't pay much attention to it, other than seeing it had my signature.
Okay.
Oh, Jorge, this is going to be problematic, I think. I don't have a good feeling about where this is going, George. For you.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked as CC295C. You can look at that and tell me what that is.
It's the document that I signed.
So that is your signature.
Yes.
And
Oh dear.
you see the date at the bottom there.
Yes.
Okay. And is that consistent with your experience as far as the computer spitting out the date something is printed off a computer?
I couldn't tell you on that. I don't use computers that much.
Okay. But this is dated March 11th of 2015,
Yes.
and it clearly was not signed in March 11th of 2015.
No, I signed it the day it was printed off.
And then these documents became an issue in the investigation, didn't they?
Yes.
Okay, and you knew that very much,
Yes.
correct? Okay. And in fact, you had a conversation with your grandmother where you tried to remind her that you guys had, she had been there when Hannah just happened to stop by and wanted to have a typewritten version of some earlier document.
Did you
and
bully me, Ma
they
George?
backdated it back to the day she originally signed it.
I don't remember that conversation.
Okay. Well, you do remember the conversation where your mother is talking to her mother, Rita, and reminding her of the conversation that you had with her where you told her that, correct? From the
No.
2017
Don't recall that one.
wire? Okay.
You got a copy of it?
Oh no,
We
We
George.
played it here.
Don't remember hearing it. If you got a copy of it, I could.
Sweet
jog my memory with
Jesus.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
Where is your attorney? Because right about now he should be standing up saying, Your Honor, it's such and such time, and we usually take our morning break about this time. I think this might be a good time. You got to get a hold of your client. This is a holy guacamole. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm living for this. And I don't want him to be stopped. I'm just shocked that he hasn't been, is what I'm trying to say. All right, I'll be right back.
I mean, I can hand him the transcript.
You want to pull it up?
Yeah, I don't know. Would seeing the document for the transcript?
Yes,
of the
Jen,
recording-
yes.
Just seeing it's fine.
Okay.
Let me, I'll be right back, but I'm going to be in chat.
You identify the date, please?
It is WW16B, is call 1658. Do you remember that?
I remember it being played now, but I've never talked to my grandmother about this.
Okay, so your mom is reminding her mother of this conversation, but you're saying that conversation never occurred.
I'm saying I've never talked to my grandmother about a custody document. Not that I can ever remember.
You certainly did have custody documents though, a lot, right?
With my mother, yes.
Yes, and lots of concern about people testifying in grand jury and handwriting exemplars, et cetera, correct?
I guess you could call it that, yeah.
Okay, well, you were worried about it, right?
Yes.
Okay, why were you worried about it?
I worry about anything to do with law enforcement. My whole life I have.
Okay,
It's how I was raised.
all right. So I mean, you realize it's forgery to backdate a document, right?
Yes,
Okay. And it's forgery to sign somebody else's name to a document.
yes, I can see that.
Okay.
I just don't see how me signing my name is forgery.
Well, it was backdated.
I didn't know that. The page was, from my understanding, blank from what I can remember when I signed my name
Okay. So you just signed your name to a completely blank document.
to a custody document. She said, sign my name. I signed it and walked out.
But you wanted to leave your child with your mother.
If something was ever to happen to me, yes. I had no
A
one
few
else.
weeks
There was
later.
no one else to leave it to him.
Again, you had lots of conversations about concerns about the handwriting that was going to be taken.
Because it's something to do with law enforcement. And I was raised that law enforcement's crooked and tries to twist everything.
Well, you were raised to commit a lot of crimes.
I was, not that it was right, but that's how I was raised. It took me a long time to realize that it was wrong. And that no matter
And
what
when did you realize that?
when I realized that my dad was wrong and it was actually hurting people,
So that particular crime you realized was actually hurting people, right? The stealing of stuff out of trailers.
yes.
But you didn't swear off a life of crime, just that particular one, you realized there actually were victims, right?
With the stealing fuel and loads, I quit in late 14, I believe.
Okay.
The last thing I can remember doing, aside from deer hunting, that was be considered illegal was the Duramax being wrecked. Then after that, it was just deer hunting.
Okay. So what about the loan fraud that you guys,
To my knowledge, I don't think there was any.
okay, did you say that you were going to be working for your grandmother and have her
For
provide documents saying that?
Flying W Farms?
Yeah.
I was gonna work part-time for her, yes.
But that's not what it said. It said you would
I
be.
don't know exactly what it says. I didn't fill the paperwork out.
Okay. You do recall coming back to Ohio and filling out a document that applying for a driver's license that was false, right?
No, I don't recall that.
Where did you live when you came back to Ohio in 2018?
I stayed in Southwestern,
At what house?
my grandfather's.
Which is what address?
I can't remember the address now. It's Havener Lane.
Havner Lane. So you did not live at Oak Hill, correct?
No, I did use that address though.
Well, clearly you used that address, because that's what you used on your application. Okay, I'm gonna hand you what's been marked as quadruple K. You could just tell me if you recognize that at all.
Yeah, it's something to do with my CDL.
So it's an application for a driver's license, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And what address did you put down there?
Oak Hill.
Okay, and that is not where you were living.
No, it's my grandmother's farm. If I remember correctly, it has something to do with R&L. That's why I used that address.
Well, you're providing false information to a state agency, correct?
Yes.
It also had something to do with the fact that you were trying to stay out of the awareness of tabbies, right?
No. It had nothing to do with that.
Okay, but you were trying to keep her from knowing you were back in Ohio.
No.
So that whole June 7th date, the 1 year of abandonment,
Didn't have me trying to keep her from knowing I was back. I just wasn't contacting her myself.
so
That
your
was
testimony is,
My attorney's advice.
okay, your attorney's advice was to use a fake address,
No, it was his advice to not contact Tabby.
okay? And also, you guys were preoccupied with, that was one of the reasons why you guys didn't want Beth Ann to get a job, right? Because that was in the area that Tabitha's family lived, and you thought they might come across her and then know suddenly where you guys lived.
I had no knowledge of Beth not getting a job. I thought she just didn't want one.
Okay. But you did have concerns about Tabitha trying to make contact with you before the 1 year term was up, and therefore you couldn't use this abandonment thing.
No,
So you were not trying to do abandonment.
I was not trying to get Tabby not to contact me. I was not contacting her. There's a difference in that.
Tell me about the abandonment.
According
Yes,
to
George.
Clark, that if she went a year without talking to him, it was abandonment. And I didn't see it as, from my attorney's advice, he says with what the paperwork said, it's not my job to contact her. But if she doesn't contact me, that's on her part.
So you were waiting and hoping for that 1 year to pass.
I was waiting on the 1 year mark, so if she started trying to start her stuff, like she eventually filed, which I now know was under BCI's advice,
By
that,
start her stuff, you mean seek to have contact with her son.
no, I mean by trying to get her mother and her sisters to see him.
She tried. Let's just go to Tabby. So she left on November 11th of 2014, right?
Yes,
That was the last day she was there.
last day she lived at the house, yes.
Okay. And you indicated yesterday that you had 6 weeks where you tried to patch things up, but then found out that she was still not being faithful to you. And so you went over there in the middle of the night and told her, forget about it.
We were going to get divorced at that point, yes.
Okay. But in fact, you had already filed those paperwork. You had already filed the dissolution.
Yes, we were starting over from ground zero.
What? What you mean, hey? George?
This is joint exhibit number 1.
Oh, this is about to become an even bigger train wreck.
Referring you to page 4 at the very top. First of all, do you know what that document is?
Yeah, George, what's that document?
It's the dissolution agreement.
Okay, and what date did you guys sign that?
I really can't read this handwriting. Let me go to a different page.
Well, that's the,
I don't think that's going to help you to be able to understand what you. Oh my
Read the
sweet.
handwriting.
Oh boy.
26th day of November 2014.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
Mm.
So 2 weeks after she left you, you had a legal document already prepared for her and you to sign.
It was agreed upon that me and her were going to try and fix things and start from ground zero. And that if we fixed it before the hearing, then we were not going to go through with it.
Okay.
And she just continued to mess around with her best friend's dad. So
And it was final January 26th of 2015.
I think that's what the document said,
Okay. So a little more than 2 months later,
something like that.
it's finalized. Okay. And you know that in there, it says reasonable visitation as agreed to by the parties, right?
Yep,
That she'll have supervised parenting time with the minor child as can be agreed upon by between the parties at reasonable times.
yes,
And you're to cooperate with the parenting time schedule,
Yes,
and they agreed they will cooperate as to parenting time at the holidays.
yes,
But you didn't do that, did you?
I did do that.
You did do that. So why is it in March, 2 months later, she's sending you certified mail saying that she wants to have regular visitation every Wednesday?
Your Honor, am I allowed to detail this?
You have to answer the question.
For the detail of it is, she canceled as many times to come visit as I did. The majority of her cancellations was because she wanted to bring her mother or her sisters with her.
And we'll walk through that. Mom, you felt contributed to her abuse.
Yes. Technically, her mother held her down.
You weren't
Oh.
there.
I had her mother tell me this out of her own mouth.
Oh, dear.
And did you ever file charges against her?
Against who?
Her mother?
No, I did not. 'Cause I was under the influence that unless one of the girls said something, that nothing would be done.
I would think someone confessing to you like that would be pretty powerful. Regardless, her sisters were victims, right?
Yes.
They didn't abuse anybody. Yes
In
or
their-
no?
In their own words, no, they did not.
Okay. So why is it you would not permit her sister, the aunt, one of the aunts of your son, to come visit at your house while you're
I
there
can't either.
supervising? What could have possibly happened during that time?
Because her sisters were doing the same thing that her
I
mother
cannot
did,
even
marrying
imagine.
men 30, 40 years older
And
than them,
also,
thinking
yes,
that it's
Jen,
okay if a
this
child
is
gets
what I
molested.
want to hear too.
Okay, so you really have no
What's
clue
going on
whatsoever
over
what
here
her
with the
sisters
closed
think,
captionings?
correct?
I know what they have all told me in my presence.
For people that you don't want to be around at all, you sure have a lot of conversations with them about really intimate things.
Sure
I spent a lot of
do.
time with them before my son was born, yes.
Okay. So again, what could have possibly happened with them being there, with you supervising?
I couldn't answer that one. I don't know what could or couldn't have happened. I just didn't want to take a
Well, would
chance.
you let anything happen?
I wouldn't have let them do anything to my son in my presence, no. But
Okay.
there's always possibility that, I might have to answer a phone call or something. I didn't want to take a chance.
Okay. But the fact remains, Tabitha believed that this was a temporary situation, that once she got on her feet, got her own place, got a job, was able to provide for Bovine, that this arrangement that she signed in January of 2015 would change, correct?
Can I go into detail on this?
It's a yes or no question.
It's, yes.
Okay. So 2 months later, because she didn't want Bovine around her stepfather either, right?
That's correct.
That's the man who abused her. Correct?
That's correct. She didn't want him around him either.
So then what's the deal? What's the
So-
problem? She,
But once she started trying to see him, you didn't allow it.
I allowed Tabby to see him anytime that she wanted to see him.
Okay, now that's not true, because you just got done saying you canceled just as much as she did. So you obviously canceled on her.
I have canceled due to work, and I've rescheduled and said come a day later or 2 days later. And then when I would call and say that we gotta do it on this day, she would say that she had to go with her mom or her boyfriend and couldn't do it that day.
Okay. You saw her messages to Hannah where she talks about very much missing her son and wanting to see him, and you not letting her, correct?
I don't doubt that Tabby would have liked to have seen Vine, but I never kept her from it. She canceled the same as I have.
George, this ain't going so good, buddy.
Could council approach just a minute?
Yes.
We'll take a morning break now, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, bless it. All right.
It's about 5 to 11, so we'll be in a break until 10 after 11. At that time, assemble at the jury room to be brought up to the court.
We won't. We'll be quiet. Okay, thank you, Your Honor. All right, you guys. So, wow. Wowee wawa. All right, so this is where I'm gonna end the stream. They've taken their morning break, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more. She is nowhere near done with him. So tonight we will be watching every moment of this cross-examination. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and make the live tonight for 8 Eastern instead of 9 because it's gonna be a lot and it's a school night and a weeknight. And I know, Kate, I know, but there's stuff I gotta do, you know? I would love to just stream all morning, but um I can't. I got stuff I gotta do. Anyway, come back tonight, Kate. Are you gonna can you want to come on panel? You should. You should come on panel. Unless you have plans, obviously. Hey. Well, thank you, Laura. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's very sweet. Thank you. I'm glad that I'm your favorite, and I'm glad that you appreciate me and my humor. Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm glad you decided to pop in and chat this time. Yeah, let's reconvene tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. Kate, the invitation is open because I'm gonna go. I'm gonna watch it until it's done. So however long that takes. So if you have plans tonight and can't, cool. Maybe another time, or if you've got plans and you can come later, cool. Whatever, the offer is on the table. The invitation is open. All right, Allie. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want you to be in tears. Oh, I'm sorry things are going so rough for you, babe. Oh, yay! Okay, Kate. So 8 Eastern, babe, okay? And Allie, you take care. And everybody try to have a great rest of your day. And I'll see y'all tonight. All right? All right. Bye.